The Palm Beach County School Board to order. Would the clerk take the roll, please?
District 1, Barbara McQuinn.
Here.
District 2, Chuck Shaw. Here. District 3, Karen Brill. Here. District 4, Erica Whitfield.
Here.
District 5, Frank Barbieri.
Here.
District 6, Marcia Andrews.
Here.
District 7, Deborah Robinson.
Okay, we have quorum. Also at the dais with us this evening is our Inspector General, Lung Chu, our Superintendent, Dr. Fenoy, and our County Council of Student Councils President, Nolan Ursoy, and our General Counsel, Julie Enrico. It gives me great pleasure to get started by introducing the Lake Worth Community High School Air Force, JROTC, who will be presenting the flag. And here to sing the national anthem is a student chorus from Palm Beach Central High School performing under the name Traditions. Would you all please stand? Mrs. Rico, would you start us in the pledge when the flag is here, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Forward. March.
Great job, everyone. Thank you. We'd like to acknowledge the principal of Lake Worth Community High School, Dr. Elvis Epps, and the principal of Palm Beach Central High, Darren Edgecombe, whose students performed here this evening. Thank you again. I would like to remind district staff and my fellow board members that this meeting is being transcribed in real time so that it can be viewed with closed captions by people who are deaf or hard of hearing. Please speak at a reasonable pace so that the people transcribing the meeting can fully capture what you are saying. We need a motion to review and approve the minutes. Motion by Mr. Shaw, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Superintendent, items added for good cause?
No, items added for good cause, I'm sorry. BRD 3, LD 2, P2, P3, REG-N1, and TL 4.
And are there any items you're withdrawing?
No, sir, there are nothing to withdraw.
And Board Clerk, you show only one item's been pulled so far, FMPF1, correct? We need a motion to approve the agenda as modified. Motion by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Mrs. Brill. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. My colleagues have any disclosures or abstentions? Seeing none, superintendent comments.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I had the privilege of attending the HBCU HSI College Fair today at the Convention Center. It was an inspirational It was so inspirational to see all of our students receiving acceptance letters and scholarship money to attend post-secondary institutions. This year, we had 23 universities and colleges that were present. Over 1,200 students of our students attended. Over 1,700 total acceptances were given out, and over $11 million in scholarships were awarded. I'd like to say congratulations to the whole Department of Curriculum and Counseling for putting that on together. I also want to talk about the major progress that is being made to the district's portion of the penny sales tax. In the past month, 29 school buses have been delivered to the district, and 11 more will arrive next month. That means that we will have added 80 new buses to our fleet this year. This is in addition to the 60 patrol cars also added to school police. But wait, ladies and gentlemen, there's even more. Students and staff at more than a dozen district schools are more comfortable thanks to new air conditioning chillers that were recently added. And while we were away at winter break, crews were hard at work at 20 campuses upgrading security and modifying buildings. Crews updated bathrooms, installed new floors, painted, replaced ceiling tiles, and upgraded roofs, among other things. I want to take a moment to commend the Facilities Department under the leadership of our Chief Operating Officer, Wanda Paul, for keeping these projects on schedule and managing this momentous task. I'm also thrilled to report that we have just learned that 532 Palm Beach County students were designated as ACE Scholars. 6 Palm Beach County students earned the top scores in the United States for their performance on this test. These students are Emma Brewer from Wellington High School, Joshua Harrison Seidman from Park Vista High School, Emily Hull from Boca Raton High School, Marina K.A. Mascalotis from Dreyfus School of the Arts, Brianna Birdsley from Olympic Heights High School, and Brianna McKnight from Park Vista High School. Please join me in congratulating these scholars. Something else to applaud. Ladies and gentlemen, our graduation rate has again reached a new high. Now we're at 91.7%. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. For the 5th consecutive year that our graduation rate is among the highest of all other large urban districts in the state of Florida. 20 of our schools have graduation rates that are 90% or higher. 3 schools, Dreyfus School of the Arts, Suncoast High School, and Village Academy, have a 100% graduation rate. Congratulations to principals Suzanne Atherley, Karen Wetzel, and LaToya Dixon. And I want to commend Palm Beach. Let's give them a round of applause, absolutely. I'm sending a special recognition to all the faculty and students at Palm Beach Lakes Community High School for a 4.6% increase in its graduation rate under the leadership of Principal Dave Alfonso. Let's give them a round of applause. Not to be outdone, Olympic Community High School received a 4.3% jump in their graduation rate under the leadership of Taro Campo. And Seminole Ridge Community High School with a 3.8% increase in its graduation rate under the leadership of Dr. James Campbell. If I said it before, one of the highlights of my first year as superintendent, actually the first couple of months, was shaking the hands of 14,000 students. Now, I will tell you, I ended up going to the chiropractor after that experience. But I am prepared. I'm much in better shape and better prepared mentally for that task. But it's such a heartwarming and such a wonderful thing we do as a school district. And so I'm looking forward to that, shaking another 14,000 plus hands as we get ready for graduation and we talk about exceeding our goals on our strategic plan. Finally, I'd like to congratulate our board chairman, Mr. Frank Barbieri, who recently received the Making a Difference Award from the West Boca Community Council for his tireless dedication and service to the community. He's also a real good person at keeping time if you ever have a meeting. So congratulations, Mr. Barbieri, well deserved. And thank you, and this concludes all of my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Board comments, Mrs. McQuinn.
I had so many incredible experiences over the last month that I'm going to save them up so that I don't have to hurry through them. Just before our winter break, December 13th, I had the privilege of visiting our Adult Education Center in West Palm Beach on Military Trail. And our director, Mr. Fred Barch, boasts being the largest school in our district as they serve over 5,000 students per year. Our entire adult and community education serves over 30,000 students at 33 sites. So these are primarily after-school programs, but the actual Adult Ed Center has 5,000 students a year. They provide ESOL classes, GED classes. They're also venturing into the area of adult vocational programming to help our parents with training for a career. And this was something I was especially excited about. Something that will be recognized tonight is the fall term had a 100% pass rate on home health care coursework, and all of the students were offered jobs. Our Adult Ed, I know this is cool. Our Adult Ed Center also helps with resume writing, interviewing, training, and job search. They are fast approaching being I can't say this without stuttering, a one-stop shop by offering health screening, credit counseling, and they also host an annual International Friendship Day. I'm particularly excited about what I learned in terms of our high school students who stumble through some of their later education, and we provide this opportunity for them to get their GED and to move into very personally rewarding careers. Particularly, I think it's important, and this is part of our strategic plan, that they help, our adult ed programs help to stabilize families through our adults. So I'm very proud of our adult ed program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Quinn. Mrs. Whitfield?
Thank you. I'm going to talk about 3 things that happened this last week really quickly and hopefully not run out of time. So the first thing I want to mention is the beginning of the South Florida Fair. This year they did a heroes recognition, and they recognized police and firefighters, but also our teachers, which was really exciting. So I got a chance to be a part of that. In the morning we did the recognition for all of the students. We ended up with 2,200 students who ran in the Kids Mile, which is an unbelievable showing. 45 schools came, and that is just a ton of students and their teachers, and I wanted to recognize the efforts that it takes to coordinate something like that throughout the whole year. These teachers take time generally after school to get these students to exercise and run and really take their health into priority. So we have to recognize our extremely wonderful K-12 department under Diana Fetterman, Eric Stern, and many others there that I won't take time to mention, but so many people that helped, and also the South Florida Fair for hosting that. The second part of that day, and Mrs. Brill was there with me too while we handed out awards. I wanted to make a point to mention that. And then the second part of the day was the parade for Heroes for Education, and we had a lot of our award winners that were on the parade float with us, as well as Mr. Oswald, who was there with his family. And so that was really exciting to be a part of that, go through and wave at everybody and have so many people recognize the teachers that we had with us. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone there. Also, our police was on there with us, which was wonderful. Finally, there was a really special event that happened yesterday at Lake Worth High School. Dr. Epps has been doing such a great job of being out in the community and really bringing attention to Lake Worth High. And one of the things that happened yesterday was we had the Central Chamber brought a whole leadership crew to tour the school, and they did such a wonderful job. I just want to say thank you to the Central Chamber for taking time out to go visit Lake Worth High, and for all the staff over there for showing off what a wonderful job they're doing. He's one of the schools that has really brought up the graduation rate in the past few years as well, and I've just been very proud of the work that's happening over there. And I love that the community came in to see the things that are happening at just a traditional school, and the amazing things that are happening with technical education and certificate programs. So I was very proud of that, and I wanted to share and say thank you so much for all of those wonderful things that are happening in the district, and Happy New Year's. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Whitfield. Mrs. Brill?
Thank you. So yes, Saturday morning it was very exciting. I was out at the fairgrounds with Mrs. Whitfield. We were giving out awards to the students that ran in the Kids Mile run. The students and the runners were wearing these capes. They were running like superheroes. But I must have been having a rough morning. But I will not name the person that said this to me, and maybe I need to use some anti-aging creams, because he said to me, you know what you can do? You can turn it around and use it as a bib. So, and this is true, so I have to tell you that no, I am not going to use this as a bib, but there was nothing better than getting up early in the morning. To get me up at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday takes a lot. But those kids were just wonderful, so thank you to everybody. I do want to mention that, you know, when my children were growing up, when there were bad things that happened either personally or in the world, I always used it as teachable moments. Sometimes those teachable moments are more difficult than others, and I really have to commend our district for the way that we have rallied around Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. I don't know if any of you saw the news last night, but Mr. Barbieri was on the news talking about the 17 acts of kindness. I won't go into them now, but we partnered, and maybe he'll be talking about that. And we've also, I just got my T-shirt, which we're selling, which is also with the school district and Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. $10 is the cost, and it's going to their foundation. I think I ordered a size too big. I might be able to wear it as a dress. But again, you know, it's these moments where we pull together and we act as a community that I'm so proud of. And finally, I do want to mention someone that's going to be recognized this evening is the School Counselor of the Year from my one and only high school, Park Vista Community High School, Megan Stair. But I also want to mention that for the last couple of years, I've been attending the School Counseling Advisory Council meetings, and it's no wonder she's the School Counselor of the Year. The fabulous things that are going on in that department because of Mrs. Stair, I really hope that we're modeling that around the state. I can tell you that from whether it's offering of scholarships and what they're doing to inform everybody about the scholarships available, to the other things they do to support the faculty, I want to say a special congratulations from my heart to Megan. Thank you.
Mrs. Andrews?
Thank you and good afternoon. I'd like to reflect a little bit on the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. As we celebrated Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday on Monday and throughout last weekend, it gave me a time to reflect how far we have come and how much farther we have to go to accomplish the dream and the vision of Dr. King. To see our children, schools, community, churches, and others participate in the activities to celebrate the life of Dr. King is always uplifting. Uplifting to me personally, but it's just uplifting to all of us who live in America. Your volunteering, your oratorical speeches, your parades, the church and community programs, the banquets, and the list goes on. We celebrate and remember in our own way. We're thankful to be here, to live and continue making the dream a reality. I want to personally thank the schools. I was in a lot of parades over the last few days. I heard a lot of oratorical contests. I was out there where the schools were participating. Thank you, schools, principals, and students for being out there to honor the history of Dr. King. And lastly, a quote from Dr. King. The function of education is to teach one, to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that's the goal of true education. And as I sit here and say to everybody, Happy New Year, I know you're living the dream, and you're making the dream a reality. As I look here and I see the Village of Wellington, Village Council, Education Committee, and all the principals, you exemplify the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King as you continue to help all of the students here in Palm Beach County to improve and be academically successful with your Keeley Spinelli scholarships. It's an honor to know that we have to all come together, the church, the school, and the community, all of our elected officials, to make the dream come alive, to make it a reality. Thank you.
Dr. Robinson?
Thank you and good evening. So I have 4 things I want to cover in this limited time. So this is the first public meeting that we've had since the Pinellas IG report was issued. So here's my statement. Again, I sincerely apologize for the offensive remarks I made regarding radio station WPOM 1600 in August of 2018. I am profoundly sorry for having said them and for the harm they caused. I successfully completed the Florida School Board Association ethics training again in December of 2018, and I would like to thank my fellow board members for the confidence that you've shown in me. That's one. Number 2, I really want to thank Eunice Vivar, because she took what was a bus tour of HBCU alum that went from one high school to the next to an outstanding, fabulous event that our superintendent brags about in his opening comments. So, and that was really because of her, so I thank her. Number 3, I want to brag about the Palm Beach Lakes Rams Regiment Marching Band, who went, as you know, to the Cotton Bowl. But guess what? After they performed in New Orleans, they had to create a new category for an award for bands because they showed up and showed out, okay? And I think it's called Owning the Steps. Is that right? Owning the Steps? So I won't get into the details, but just know that they were so outstanding, they had to create a new category of award. So now, my 4th thing and last thing is my January Black History fact. So this event was known as the only coup d'etat that occurred on United States soil. It was the morning of November 10th, 1898 in Wilmington, North Carolina, 2 days after a statewide election. By nightfall, the building housing a newspaper called the Daily Record had been burned to the ground. They say that back then, Wilmington, North Carolina was considered to be a black Mecca. It was a very prosperous city with blacks outnumbering whites. There were professionals and people in all of the trades and a rising black middle class. Now, by the way of backdrop, this was the post-Civil War era during Reconstruction. The Republican Party was biracial and many blacks had been elected to office. This was decades prior to the race-based realignment of the 2 major parties in this country that took place during the Civil Rights Movement. So according to NPR, and I quote, Southern Democrats lost power in North Carolina in 1894 and plotted to wrest control from the biracial Republican Party in the 1898 elections. Close quote. The election was on November 8th, and reportedly, white supremacy rallies were held and parades were organized of the red shirts to intimidate blacks from voting. The red shirts were the paramilitary branch of the Democratic Party. The statewide election restored Democrats to power, and 2 days later, the coup d'etat in Wilmington occurred. Again, according to NPR, on that night, a mob of white supremacists, reportedly around 2,000, with rifles and pistols, marched to the city hall in Wilmington, North Carolina, and overthrew the elected local government, forcing both black and white officials to resign and running many of them out of town. It's estimated between 90 and 300 African Americans were killed. In 2006, the 1898 Wilmington Race Riot Commission was formed to accurately document the history of this coup. History initially blamed the riots on agitated blacks in an inflammatory black newspaper. History now reports that a former member of Congress, Alfred Waddell, was the organizer of the mob. Reportedly, prior to the election, Waddell threatened that he would, quote, choke the current of the Cape Fear River, close quote, with black bodies. He became the mayor of Wilmington after the massacre. Furthermore, Charles Aycock reportedly was involved in planning this massacre, and he was elected governor 3 years later. Jim Crow laws were hurriedly passed, starting in 1899. Apparently, similar violence had been coordinated on that same day, where they burned black newspapers all over the state. It was planned. It was reported in the August 12, 2017 edition of Atlantic Magazine that the North Carolina GOP executive director had recently tweeted about this long ago massacre, saying, quote, "The events of the November 10th, 1898 were the result of a long-range campaign strategy by Democratic Party leaders to regain political control of Wilmington at a time that the state's most populous city in North Carolina in the name of white supremacy." Interesting that he said that, right? So I guess we weren't supposed to recognize the difference between the current D's and the current R's, and then and now, but nevertheless. So it was planned, and it led to what one Yale professor referred to as, quote, a 50-year black hole of information. So I say all this to say that elections matter. Who you vote for matters. Coup d'etats don't just take place in small foreign countries. They also take place here in this country. And our students should know about this incident and our history in hopes that they never allow it to happen again. Thank you.
Mr. Shaw.
For over 60 years, Palm Beach County students have made the annual trips to Washington, D.C. And I wish I had been at the fair. This is the first time I missed the mile walk and thought about it on Saturday. But I just returned back from one of the trips. Some very interesting things for young people from South Florida. They got to see snow, and they had the experience firsthand to be there and have that experience, which many kids in South Florida may never see snow. Also, I know that many parents were concerned because with the shutdown of the federal government, whether or not the students would be able to have a trip that was as fulfilling as it usually is. The good thing is they did. The students were able to see almost everything they always see with the exception of the Smithsonian buildings. But since they couldn't do the Smithsonian buildings, they did see some places that they don't normally get to go to. But it was an amazing experience. And unless you've been on this trip and seen the work that the teachers put in to supervise these children, the planning that goes into these trips, the supervisors who go on the trips, the volunteer medical staff that are there on every single trip, it's something that's overwhelming. And I want to congratulate especially Jim Pegg and Jeff Pegg, who are the ones who really coordinate this, because it is an undertaking that this county should be proud of. And my guess is there are many people in this room who may have made that trip if you attended Palm Beach County Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. The school board is very pleased that the 4th District Court of Appeals agreed with the board's position that the board enjoys sovereign immunity from the city of West Palm Beach's attempt to collect stormwater utility fees. This holding will save the board in excess of $280,000 per year in stormwater fees that the city was seeking to collect, and additional $320,000 that other municipalities in the county were billing the school district. This has saved the board $3.6 million countywide to date and $600,000 per year going forward. These are operating fund dollars that the board will be able to continue to direct toward educating students. A special thanks to Associate Attorney Sean Fahey in the Office of General Counsel for his stellar work on this issue and the oral argument yesterday. Thank you. I also want to shout out to Mr. Eric Stern. As many of you know, the graduations are at the fairgrounds. Eric Stern has done a fabulous job of coordinating those graduations for I don't know how many years, 6, 7, 8. He thinks it's a lifetime. Probably will be for him. Just a warning, Mr. Stern. But over the weekend, he coordinated the opening of the South County the South Florida Fair with the school district to have all of our students participate. So thank you, Eric, for another job well done. And finally, Mrs. Brill mentioned the 17 acts of kindness. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School is only a couple miles from our school district, just over the county line in Broward. February 14, 2019, Valentine's Day, will be the first anniversary of the horrendous and senseless mass murder of 17 innocent children and their teachers. On this Valentine's Day, a day traditionally set aside to show friendship and love, we remember that last Valentine's Day, a day filled with terror and hatred. How can you possibly create goodness from such evil and tragedy? Starting January 29th, our school district is launching the 17 Acts of Kindness campaign, our way of creating that goodness. From eating lunch with someone they don't know, to helping someone with a chore or task, to sending a Valentine's Day card to a person alone and lonely in a nursing home, the simple suggestions are for our 193,000 students to show sympathy and compassion, reminding them and us that kindness can overcome hatred and that they can find light in the darkest of nights. A tree will be planted on each of our high school campuses, as well as here at the district headquarters. In planting these trees, we remember the children and teachers we lost. And as we look at those young trees and see them blossom in the spring, we will be reminded of how precious life is and how important a task it is for the school board to enact policies to keep our children and educators safe from harm. For those who survived the Parkland massacre, this is our way to show them that we will remember a day they can only hope to forget. With that said, Mrs. Andrews, I believe you have a motion.
Thank you, and I'm asking for this point of personal privilege to make the motion to take BRD1 to ratify posthumous proclamation for Gettrell out of order at this time.
We have a motion by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Mrs. Brill. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So we need a motion to take the item out of order?
Yes.
That was the motion.
Thank you.
Okay, so the recommendation is to ratify the posthumous proclamation for Mr. Gettrell Singleton that was presented to his family on January 12th, 2019.
Yes, thank you. And may I have the privilege of saying a few words? His family is here today, and I'd like for the board to come down with me to take a picture. This was an outstanding, outstanding educational leader, a legend in the school district and a legend in the Glades community. Mr. Singleton was a former teacher and principal in the Palm Beach County School District, and he passed away on January 1st, 2019. He was hired as a fourth grade teacher in the Palm Beach County School District in 1951 at South Bay Elementary School. He also taught fourth and fifth grade at Rosenwald Elementary School from 1952 to 1955, and he became the principal of Rosenwald Elementary School and remained a principal there until 1983. He has a legend to remember for us as we look at education. He was also honored in the National Journal of Negro History as an honored Palm Beach County Black historian. And as we look at our educators from the past, we learn so much from them, and we honor him tonight. I'm asking his family, if you're here in the audience, I think you're here, please come forth so that we can recognize you. And it was my pleasure to read the entire proclamation at his funeral with praise and thanksgiving for all of the work he had done for the school district of Palm Beach County, and especially in the community of the Glades region. Please come down with me.
Okay, before we do that, they can come forward. No, come on forward. We just need a second on Mrs. Andrews' motion, seconded by Dr. Robinson. All in favor, all opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Now you can go to the floor, and please stay there. We have other presentations afterwards.
All right, ready, guys? Look over here. All right. 1, 2.